legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations.
We took out any kind of woke language here. This is an agency where woke will go to die.
You know what woke means? It means you're a loser. Everything woke turns to shit, okay?
Maybe around 2019 or so, I started hearing the term woke thrown around a lot, and usually as a bad thing. If you're at all concerned about pollution or climate change, apparently you're woke. Any kind of policies that try to prevent discrimination, that's woke. Remember the high school in Florida that had an AP course on African American studies? Oh my gosh, that was so woke. The Florida legislature had to pass the Stop Woke Act to put a stop to that. People keep using that word, and I'm not so sure it means what they think it means. I mean, woke sounds to me like being awake and aware, which sounds like a good thing, right? So that got me wondering, am I woke? I mean, I think I'm a regular guy. I coached baseball, volunteered at the kids' schools, and I was a scout leader. I've had successful businesses that have employed a bunch of people over the years. And when my neighbor's tree goes down in a storm, I show up with my chainsaw, and I couldn't care less about their politics. And that all seems pretty normal. There's nothing radical about any of that. But then again, yeah, when it comes to issues that affect all of us, I do tend to defer to the experts, scientists, economists, people who've devoted their whole lives to knowing what they're talking about. And I do think we need to be honest about our history and not repeat past mistakes. And I do have to confess that I have solar panels on my roof and I own an EV. So does that make me some kind of radical and threat to the country? I don't remember those things ever being so controversial like they seem to be now. I wanted to know for sure what woke actually meant. So I went to the person who literally wrote the book that exposes this woke menace that's threatening the very fabric of our society.
So, when we talk about traditional,
what does that mean to you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean,
well, that sure did go viral, but hey, anyone can get flustered. Happens to the best of us. Let's give her a chance and see if she pulls it together.
It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression.
No, I have no idea what that word salad meant. So I was back at square one, and so I really had to think outside the box to get to the bottom of this whole woke thing. I Googled it. The consensus seems to be that the first recorded mention of the phrase "stay woke" was in the late 1930s by Leadbelly, the folk and blues legend who went on to influence musicians like Bob Dylan and the Beatles. He had recorded a protest song about the Scottsboro boys, 9 black teenagers falsely accused of assaulting 2 young white women in Alabama while they were all hitching a ride together on a freight train. After a series of bogus trials, 8 of them were sentenced to death, and altogether they spent over 100 years in prison before finally being pardoned. But for 3 of them, that came too late. Talking about the song afterwards, Leadbelly gave his audience a warning.
And the lawyer what got him out, I know him pretty good. I've met him. And he showed me the Scottsboro boys, and I shake hands with him, so I made this little song about down there. So I advise everybody to be a little careful when they go along through that, but stay woke, keep their eyes open.
So think about that. The word woke was born as a warning not to be complacent about the prejudice and injustice that Black folks still faced long after the Civil War. The term woke was carried forward through the Civil Rights era and then revived by a new generation that still sees injustice all around us today. There's nothing radical or sinister about it. I mean, at its core, it simply means understanding and acknowledging that the injustice that's out there and just plain not being a bigot. Learning about the history of the term woke made me think back about how and when I learned about racism in America and some ugly truths in our history. I was just 5 or 6 when my dad first talked to me about racism. He called it prejudice. I understood what he was telling me, but it never really sank in or seemed real. I mean, back then, almost no Black people lived around here, and it just wasn't anything that I ever witnessed. My dad had a Black colleague, and our families got together for social events along with his other colleagues and their families. And I never saw them as any different because they're not. And I was just never exposed to any of this prejudice that my dad talked about. So racism kind of stayed a pretty abstract thing to me until one fall evening when I was about 11, taking pictures around the old train station with my dad. My dad got me into photography from a pretty early age. This is his old Nikon that I learned on. One fall evening like today, my dad and I were taking pictures here, and I guess the sun was at the right angle and I was at the right spot. And as I stood right here, I saw it. I could see an image where painted lettering used to be on the glass window of what used to be the baggage room door. And it said, "Colored waiting room." What had been hidden for years suddenly revealed itself because I was in the right spot at the right time. And because it was right here on this door in my town, it flipped a switch in my brain. I showed this to my dad and he told me more. Our city used to be a sundown town. Black folks weren't welcome after dark. And it's not like this was ancient history that happened 100 years ago. This was a thing pretty much right up to the time I was born in the late 1960s. It turns out that my dad, along with a lot of other folks, had stepped up and spoken out against the racism and helped push back against the hatred as Black families were finally allowed to buy homes here. Having actually seen this with my own eyes, the prejudice that my dad taught me about wasn't just some abstract idea anymore. And that was when all of the hatred and evil of racism hit me full force and my eyes were opened. Looking back on it now, I realized that that was a moment, and this is the place where I became woke.
The goal of the woke left is to replace religion with an ideology that demands the same obedience, but without the forgiveness of a religion. It's insane. At least with religion, you get heaven, but with wokeism, you get hell on earth.
Dad, you are lucky there's not a drinking game going on right now with the phrase woke mind virus in fraternities across the country, because there'd be a lot of kids who are imbibing too much.
This woke idea that you can print as much money as you want.
Go woke, go broke.
Go woke. Go woke.
Gotta be woke, Brian.
Woke.
Woke.
Whoa.
Woke.
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 Woke. Woke.
Woke. Woke.
Now it seems that everyone and everything that's not on the MAGA wagon is woke. It's everywhere in campaigns, speeches, conversations with colleagues, neighbors, and even family members. Now it's to the point where woke has also become this weird, nebulous boogeyman that wants open borders and wants to defund the police and put litter boxes in schools for students who identify as cats. I want to talk about this litter box thing for a minute because of a bizarre experience I had. A while back, I was out of town having lunch with a few folks, and somehow the topic of litter boxes in schools came up. One of these people, a very nice, intelligent, and professional person, suggested to the group that this was indeed happening in their school district in that town. I was too stunned to say anything, and fortunately, someone changed the subject. It was kind of surreal, but I chalked it up to people just being silly, passing around yet another urban legend. And I tried not to read too much into it, but I was fooling myself. You see, in 2025, Texas State Representative Stan Gertis filed a bill to outlaw litter boxes in schools. I'm not making this up. His press release claimed that across the country, schools have even provided litter boxes for students identifying as animals. At the committee hearing on the bill, he told us all about it.
You claimed, quote, schools have been provided litter boxes for students identifying as animals, end quote, when you introduced this bill. Is that correct?
When did I do that?
That's a direct quote from your press release announcing the bill.
Provided litter boxes?
I'll read it to you again. The quote is, schools have even provided litter boxes for students identifying as animals. Do you recognize that as being one of your quotes?
I'll take you for your word.
Okay. Can you name a school where it has been confirmed that students are using litter boxes?
Well, what we do with this bill is we prevent that from happening, but what we don't take out, and I know we've talked about some active shooter situations.
When you introduced this bill, you said schools have even provided litter boxes for students identifying as animals. I'm asking.
And that's what we've gotten some reports of.
And what school districts reported this?
Well, and Smithville confirmed they do not have one.
Yeah, because you mentioned Smithville in your layout.
Right.
As
That's
being
about
where you
the
heard
furry.
about
I
this.
never said that Smithville had a litter box. I want to be clear about that.
You heard that right. So after all the hysterics with reports coming in from all over the country, at the committee hearing on his own bill, Representative Gertis could only identify one report from one school district, and the report confirmed that there were no litter boxes. And yet, here we are.
Are you aware that Governor Abbott said, quote, kids go to school dressed up as cats with litter boxes in their classrooms?
Sure.
Are you also aware that when the governor was asked by the Dallas Morning News to name a single school where this happened, he couldn't? And PolitiFact called this a pants on fire false claim started by online rumors?
Okay. Or do you want me to name a specific example?
I've asked if there's an example of litter boxes being provided to students.
I actually watched the full 40-minute hearing, so you don't have to, and I'll link it below. Spoiler alert, to this day, no one, not Gertis, Governor Abbott, or anyone else can point to a single instance anywhere in the known universe where kids are using litter boxes in school. It's a straight up, bald-faced, filthy lie, and yet these same folks will look you in the eye and try to convince you that your crazy woke neighbors like me think that we have to have litter boxes in schools and we're pushing this radical agenda all over the country. But here's the kicker. At the same time that they are bearing false witness against their neighbors with the big litter box lie, they actually passed a law requiring that a big poster with the 10 Commandments be put up in every single classroom across the state of Texas. Gertis voted for it, and Governor Abbott signed it into law because, of course, they did. Now think about that for a minute. With that kind of contradiction, don't you see how it's fair to question the sincerity of these guys who call themselves Christians? And I also think it's fair to question the sincerity of the people that keep voting for these guys. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Tell me what you think in the comments. Right here in my community, in a race for county commissioner, a candidate wrote this in his campaign press release. Our way of life in this community is under attack from the woke left. Really? This is a campaign for county commissioner. You know, roads and bridges has nothing whatsoever to do with partisan politics. And you might think, okay, this has to be some random nut job who filled out the form and paid the filing fee to run for office as some kind of a joke. But you would be wrong. This gentleman is a former mayor of our city, and here he is demonizing plain old regular folks like me to try to drum up votes because apparently that's what you have to do to get votes from certain segments of the population. The phone conversations I had with this former mayor and his campaign manager were very enlightening. At another time, right here, a few years ago, in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing, there was a big stink about our woke mayor and city council defunding the police. But did they really defund the police? A bipartisan group of our finest citizens formed a group. And by bipartisan, I think they really mean MAGA and QAnon. And boy, they sure did get triggered and showed their true colors when some teenagers drove past one of their gatherings and exercised their First Amendment rights. It got ugly.
I'm about to roll up the window and I'm going to drive away. Go ahead. Don't you dare.
Don't do it. Drive. Are they blocking us? Don't! Oh my God! I got that on camera. Ew! I have it on camera.
But those are whole other stories for another day, so stay tuned. I think I'm pretty representative of most people who some folks call woke, radical, liberal, libtard, take your pick. And by representative, I mean we're just regular folks. Your neighbors, coworkers, veterans like my dad, first responders, business owners, people who care about their communities. I mean, of course, nobody's perfect, but most of us are decent. We're patriots who want what's right for our country. And sure, we can debate legitimate policy differences like immigration, for example, but nobody's calling for open borders and nobody's out here welcoming busloads of violent criminals from the prisons down south that they're emptying out to send up here. I mean, you want to talk about fake news? I mean, come on. So what does it say about the righteousness of a particular group of people if they have to tell wild lies and demonize the other side just to win an argument or an election? Between being a dad, a scout leader, and a Little League coach for 16 years, I've gotten to know a lot of parents, and no parent I know would believe crazy stories like this or just put up with this kind of bullshit from their teenagers. Okay, maybe there's a few who would, but almost nobody. But here we have a lot of people who just will automatically believe outrageous lies about their neighbors without even questioning it. It sure seems like a lot of these folks have so much hatred in their hearts that they want to believe these crazy things about their fellow Americans. And that makes me sad for them and for our country. I vote for the person and not the party, and sometimes, frankly, it's more about voting against a certain candidate than anything else. Common sense, experience, and just plain old basic decency matter more to me than party labels. And that goes for my city council person all the way up to the president of the United States. My views on things evolve. If someone can give me an honest, compelling reason why I'm wrong about something or why I might look at something in a different way, I could very well change my views and maybe even the way I vote. But exaggerating things beyond any recognition or just plain making crazy shit up, I mean, that's a deal breaker. And if you love your country, I mean, basic honesty shouldn't be negotiable. And I hear a lot of folks going on about how, this is a Christian nation and we're based on Christian values. But it sure seems that a lot of these very same folks are so devoted to living their lives and treating others in a way that's the polar opposite of what Jesus was all about. Call me crazy, but maybe instead of the government trying to force people to post the 10 Commandments in our public schools under penalty of law, folks like Representative Gertis and Governor Abbott should maybe focus more on their own challenges with living up to those ideals. It's just a thought. And besides, it's all fake and just for show because everyone knows that it's unconstitutional. Talk about a huge waste of time and money for nothing. So why has this particular word become twisted into an insult? I think the answer is pretty obvious. It's absolutely no accident or coincidence. So yeah, I'm woke. Like my dad who stood up against racism and hatred in the 1960s, it's my turn to do the same. When I was that kid at the train station, I never imagined that half a century later, I'd be sitting here talking to a camera, fighting the same battle. My dad taught me that doing what's right isn't always popular, but history always has a way of catching up. He lived long enough to see some of the progress he believed in actually happen, but I don't think he'd be happy with some steps backward we've been taking in this country to where America wasn't so great for a lot of people. And I think about that when I hear people use woke like an insult. If standing up for justice and decency and making important decisions that affect all of us based on actual facts puts me on the wrong side of some folks, well, I can live with that. My dad ended up on the right side of history, and I'm pretty sure I will too.